Maine's Penobscot County is long and narrow, and, as its name implies, is centered around the Penobscot River, which flows for 264 miles from the heart of the north-central Maine wilderness to Penobscot Bay. And like the river itself, the county that bears its name wears many faces and offers innumerable opportunities for outdoor adventure. From hiking to fly fishing, ATV riding to kayaking, snowmobiling to cross-country skiing. It's a four-season destination and contains some of the most beautiful countryside in the nation. Its forests, mountains, lakes, ponds, and rivers teeming with wildlife. I'm Tom Richardson. Join me as I explore Penobscot County through the seasons and sample some of the many ways to experience its outdoor venues. We'll also get to know some of the people who love this part of New England and are passionate about protecting its natural resources and sharing its history. So pack your bags, lace up your hiking boots, and get to know the spectacular region. Penobscot County Journal was funded in part by a grant from the Penobscot County Unorganized Territory Administration. Additional funding and support provided by Your New England Ford Dealers, REI Co-op. REI believes time outside is fundamental to a life well lived. Realty of Maine, and visitnewengland.com. Our exploration of Penobscot County begins just north of Old Town, in the town of Milford. It was here at the Costigan boat launch that I met up with David Tannhauser and Chloe Chun, founders of the nascent Penobscot River Paddling Trail, which extends from Medway at the junction of the east and west branches of the river to Penobscot Bay, a distance of some 100 miles. David and Chloe, along with the help of numerous volunteers and support from various landowners and other groups, have created a series of 11 campsites along the river that the paddling public is free to use as they make their way downstream. It's an amazing resource, and one that's still not widely known.
We're going to go down the Penobscot River 5 or 6 miles. We're going to turn west onto the Stillwater branch of the Penobscot, go about a half mile, and that's where our campsite is.
Okay, and how far apart are the campsites spaced?
We shoot for about every 10 miles.
Okay, because that's like a typical, average paddler would do about 10 miles?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, really, in a morning, you can do 10 miles.
Yeah, especially if you're going with the current.
Right. That's the only way we go.
After launching our canoe and kayak, we set off downstream toward Old Town. Along the way, we passed several small islands in the middle of the river, all property of the Penobscot Nation. Although inviting places to rest or enjoy lunch, these islands are off limits without special permission.
Well, it's gorgeous. I can't believe we're out here and there's no other boats, no other paddlers, no other people.
Right.
It's really amazing.
We sometimes see deer. We see a lot of eagles.
Do you get eagles down on this stretch of the river?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure we'll see them.
I'm thrilled to see all these beautiful native species growing here. Up there, the red berries of winterberry, and they will be with us all winter, even after the leaves fall off. And then closer down, we have meadowsweet, it's a spirea.
After paddling south for roughly 2 miles, we hung a right off the Maine River and entered a side channel shown on maps as the Stillwater River, but which is actually a branch of the Penobscot that flows around Orson Island in Old Town. A few hundred yards downstream, near a spot called Twin Islands, we spied the bright yellow sign marking the location of our home for the night.
Wow, Chloe, this is a magnificent sight on the river. Unbelievable.
We were so lucky that the town of Old Town allowed us here and is happy to have us here on some of their public land. And it's in this beautiful copse of trees and lots of flat places for tents.
Boy, I'll tell you, they can't beat the view.
No, you sure can.
Oh,
Isn't
it's really
it
fantastic.
lovely?
It is, it's fantastic. And it's all, I can't believe it's like, you know, the public can just come here for free, and
Yeah,
it's great.
That's right.
In this day and age,
Public
it's like,
access, yeah. We're very lucky that we got to have it here.
so here's your guest book, huh?
Right.
It's I gotta say, it's a little damp, but
It is.
so the entries are pretty recent. They're all 2021, really.
Right.
Great fishing, they say.
Good.
Good thing I brought my rod.
Right. You better get out
I
there.
better get out there.
There is terrific fishing all along the Penobscot, especially for smallmouth bass, which were introduced in the early 1900s and have flourished. After spending a peaceful night on the river, David, Chloe, and I enjoyed a hearty breakfast and headed back to the main stem of the Penobscot.
This is Indian Island, and we'll paddle here, and this is Orson Island, and that's smooth water. Over here to the Old Town boat launch.
Which we followed to our takeout spot just above the Milford Dam.
The Penobscot River was deeply polluted for many years, so that people a little older than I am would say, I would never go in the Penobscot, it stank. And over time, the river's cleaned up. 2 dams have been taken down, and it seemed like the time to have a river trail on the Penobscot.
You know, it was the scene of so much in the past, and it was really polluted, as David said, with lots of lumbering. And the river was so full of logs at times that the Penobscot Indians couldn't even get their canoes launched or back to shore. And so we weren't expecting such a wild and scenic river. Now eagles and osprey and great blue herons all along the way, lots of fish. The ratings of the water quality have been raised over time in the last 20 years because of the improving water quality.
Penobscot County is full of surprises. In the town of Orono, just outside Bangor, is a special place called the Orono Bog, a rare and unique ecosystem that can be explored via a mile-long boardwalk. Leading curious visitors on walks around the bog is Jerry Longcore, a longtime field biologist with the U.S. Forest Service.
Well, the Orono Bog was founded many, many years ago because when the glaciers came down, they pushed down the earth and the ice, the ocean actually came in, and that's why you find a lot of sediments, actually marine sediments under the bog. We have interpretive stations. There's 7 interpretive stations out there on the boardwalk, and each one kind of tells you what you see and what you could expect to see at this particular place, habitat-wise and wildlife-wise. So
Cool.
when it left a big depression, and of course plants grew, but because there was no oxygen down the bottom of that, the plants didn't decompose, so they built up and built up and built up until they got a lot of peat in there, and now we got what we got.
So this brown layer is all the peat.
All the peat, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And there are places out through this. This stuff is 22 feet deep. Yeah, this is what we call red maple. But yeah, common names are, wherever you are, that's whatever the common name they call it there, but it's actually Acer rubrum, meaning red in Latin. So now we're moving into the black spruce tamarack forest type habitat.
So things are changing. The habitat's changing.
A lot fewer deciduous trees in here. And of course, red squirrels feed on all these cones, so they're common species we'll see in here. I think a lot of people don't really appreciate how depauperate that bog is in nutrients until you get out to that station 4 and they walk out and they go, wow, this is something. And then you tell them all those little trees out there that are an inch across are 95 years old, 95 years old. And you say, well, why? Well, it's because the only nutrients that bog gets, because it's a raised bog, is dust particles and rainfall and snowfall. That's where the nutrients come from. I've been out indoors all my life, so to speak, and as a field biologist from 1976 to 2004, I spent a lot of time out in the Maine woods here. And it's good to give something back, I really enjoy working with the kids when we have them out here because they're our hope for tomorrow,
Following the Penobscot northward from my paddling adventure in Old Town, much as Henry David Thoreau did on his 3 trips to northern Maine in the early 1800s, I made a stop in the towns of Lincoln and Lee. The latter is home to Sleeping Bear Campground, which comprises several housekeeping cabins as well as tent and RV sites. Owners Keith Carpenter and Nancy Souza are the friendly hosts of this campground, which also offers immediate access to the local ATV and snowmobile trails. An avid outdoorsman, Keith led me on a brief ATV ride through the local woods. Sleeping Bear Campground also happens to be located in the heart of the Lincoln Lakes region, which boasts some of the best bass fishing in the state. Local guide Ed Moninghoff of Blue Moose Hideaway Guide Service is a man well versed in the local fishing and hunting scene, and he was kind enough to show me some of his favorite fishing spots.
Well, I got attracted to this area because of my bear hunting. The bearing I bought a lease out, bought another outfitter out, and I like to fish. So there's 13 different lakes here in the Lincoln Lakes region. I became a guide because I love hunting and I love fishing. That's my favorite thing to do, hunt and fish. I spent a lot of time in factory work, paper mills and stuff like that. I got tired of it. I wanted a change in life, and I've been coming up to Maine for 20 years before I did move up here. And like I say, I bought that business and just kept going from there.
Ed took me to a couple of his favorite local lakes, and we had a blast catching both largemouth and smallmouth bass in a variety of settings.
Nice little largemouth bass.
Ranging from shallow, weed-filled coves to deep ledges.
Ed, sweet.
We did it.
That's a nice fish, huh? Oh yeah, that's a nice bass right there.
This part of Maine is known for its great bass fishing and routinely hosts fishing tournaments.
There we go. Woohoo! All right, Ed.
Fish on.
Here we go.
Fish on board.
Right as that eagle flew over. Yeah, this is a good fish. Wow, that's cool, man. He was just lurking in those weeds. The best one of the day, you think, Ed?
Yep. I really love the bass fish. That's my favorite fishing right now. I think the biggest challenge is figuring out what the fish are going to bite on. The weather's got a lot to do with it. It's like today we had a high sun, so it's one of them dog day, fishing days. I like to try to use different lures to try to figure out what they're going to hit, what the presentation's going to be, how you got to present it, how you got to tune the lures.
After my day of lake and pond fishing with Ed Moningoff, it was time to get back on the Penobscot River. This time I hooked up with drift boat guide Zach Glidden, who drove me to a launch site in North Lincoln. A few minutes later, we entered a different world, a beautiful stretch of the river teeming with smallmouth bass.
So I love fishing. I think it's just growing up in Maine. That's what my father did. I mean, that was the time we spent with him, He worked nights, and so we never saw him much except for on the weekends. We always went fishing, and I think that was the start of it from there. And it just, went on throughout my life, and it's a great hobby, it's a great pastime, great stress reliever. That's why I love fishing myself. Come on. Oh, we got a runner.
Fish number 2.
Oh, nice fat one.
That is. Fatty.
Fish on.
Yep, there we go.
Nantucket sleigh ride.
It's gonna jump. Nice. You're right, in this deep hole.
The middle section of the Penobscot is loaded with prime smallmouth structure, including submerged rocks, deep holes, shaded and undercut banks, overhanging tree limbs, weed beds, logs, and the mouths of feeder creeks. In short, you're likely to find fish almost anywhere.
We drifted through that long weed bed. And now we're at the end of this island here?
Yeah, so we come down the weed bed to the tail end of the island. We got the water coming around. Hey, there he is.
Guess what? As if on cue. Oh,
nice.
God. Little guy. So, explain this spot that we anchored here.
So the tail end of the island, we got a bunch of ledge coming out from shore, the water coming around and then down off the weed flats. Get a nice deep hole here, hold some nice fish.
Now, how deep is it?
We're probably looking at about 15 feet. So in a river that's only 4 to 8, 15's a nice hole.
Sure. Nice. So you know what? I'm telling you, he inhaled that thing again. He was right in that deep hole. He seemed to make it okay.
Yeah.
After catching several fish on spin gear and soft plastic tube lures, I decided to see if these fish would take a fly. My pattern of choice? The venerable Sneaky Pete slider. The reaction was immediate. The smallmouth action we found on the Penobscot was phenomenal, and we took fish at will on both spin and fly gear all along the 8 miles of river we drifted that morning. Perhaps more remarkable was that we only saw one other person the entire time. It was an eye-opening experience, and I vowed to return to this relatively untapped stretch of the Penobscot. Along many stretches of the Penobscot, you can really get a sense of what the river must have looked and felt like before the arrival of Europeans and their enormous appetite for wood. From the late 1700s through 1971, when the last log drive on the Penobscot took place, the river served as a watery highway for wood heading downstream to the mills and goods heading to loggers and settlers in the Maine interior. Timber harvesting was and still is a major industry in northern Maine, and you can learn more about the history of logging by visiting the fascinating Patent Lumbermen's Museum, just east of Baxter State Park.
This is a sleeping area that the men would have slept in, and like I said, probably up to 15 men would sleep in that area. They called this the deacon's bench. This is where the men sat to put on their boots in the morning, eat their meals. It was an open fire pit, so they cooked right here, and they left the opening in the roof so the smoke would go out. When they came in at night, this would be called a stink pole because they would take off their wet wool clothes and try to dry it, and I guess the odor was very prolific. Yeah, pretty nasty. Like I said, and there's the sharpening stone for their axes and the froe that they used to split the shingles with. We have a wooden sink that they would fill with water to do up what dishes they had or wash up.
Yeah, wow, pretty rustic though, living quarters.
Absolutely, very much so.
And I guess not really meant for the tall lumberjacks.
No. This, like I said, was probably 30 or 40 years later when there were more men in the woods and they needed better accommodations. So this center part they call a dingle, and we're not really sure why it's called a dingle because we've never found that word anywhere. But it sounds interesting to say. It sounds
interesting. I'm sure somebody will
come up with something. Right? So this would have been the kitchen and the cook's quarters. The cooks slept in the kitchen. They would set up the tables for the lumbermen to come in the morning and in the evening. There was no talking at the tables. They had the signs up because they didn't want to hear complaints, and they wanted the men in and out as quickly as they could so that they could go on to the next meal.
And this is authentic.
This is authentic. Yes, it is. And instead of sleeping all under on the boughs, they slept two to a bunk. So they didn't have a bunk to themselves, but it was two. And they had the cook stove here, and again another stink pole. And this I always thought was interesting. This was their towel to wash up with, but it was just a circular towel. So you wipe your hands and pull it down for the next person.
I don't think that's really hygienic.
Probably not. Probably not. Tom, this is our Lombard log hauler.
The Lombard?
Lombard.
Lombard. Well, this thing looks like something out of Dr. Seuss to me.
Well, it could have been. That could have been the idea for it. But back in the early 1900s, when we were using horses in the woods exclusively, it took like many horses to get through a season. And steam engines had come around by that time, so a gentleman went to Alvin Lombard, who had a workshop in the Waterville area, and asked if there was some way they could make a track to go through the woods. So Alvin Lombard patented the first cleat track, which is that circular forward-weighted track that you now see on Army tanks.
Really?
And any Caterpillar bulldozers. They all come from the patent of that track.
Oh, no kidding.
In Waterville, Maine, yes. So like I said, there were only 83 of them ever manufactured of the original steam ones. There's very few left. When they broke down in the woods, they generally left them, took parts off of them to keep the other ones running. But it changed the whole way the woods was logged in the early 1900s. It took us from using, horses in the woods to machinery. But they left the sides open because this machine had no brakes. So going down steep, if it got away from them, they wanted the steerer to be able to jump off if he had to.
Hey, yeah. Safety first.
Safety first, yeah.
Much of the northern Maine forest is owned or managed by timber companies, but many allow access to the land for numerous recreational activities, including hunting, fishing, hiking, camping, snowmobiling, and ATV riding. Shin Pond Village in the town of Mount Chase, just north of Patton, is a hub for the last two activities. Owned and operated by the Hill family since 1981, the private enterprise comprises a store, a restaurant, a pair of rental homes, 30 campsites, and several well-appointed housekeeping cabins and suites offering spectacular views of Mount Katahdin, some 15 miles southwest. It also offers Polaris ATV and snowmobile rentals, as well as equipment and clothing.
Yeah, so today we're gonna head from Shin Pond here where we are, and we're gonna go across on the south side of Mount Chase, which you could have seen outside our dining room window here, and we're gonna head for Hastings Falls. So this is a hour and 15-minute ride each way.
Okay.
With a real short hike at the end, very short,
nice.
2-minute hike into a set of waterfalls, and the water is probably a little low this time of year in comparison, but still a nice destination to go to.
ATV trails managed by local clubs wind throughout the surrounding countryside, and many can be accessed directly from the Shin Pond complex. These trails range from easy to rugged, but modern ATVs can handle nearly any terrain. I couldn't believe some of the boulders we were able to scramble over as we made our way past Mount Chase. Along the way, we stopped at scenic spots and even picked a few raspberries, which grow wild in many of the trailside clearings.
So how does the trail system work up here? Like, who maintains it?
So an ATV club will form, and then they basically have to go to each landowner. Where they want to get an ATV trail, they have to contact that landowner and obtain permission. Without the permission, there's no legal trail, no access over that land as far as ATV use goes. Some of those landowners might be small landowners, minimal acreage, a couple acres.
Just an individual?
An individual, maybe they have just a camp and 2 acres of land, but this road may pass through it, or this trail and / road. But then out here, you might have a big landowner who owns thousands of acres.
You mean like a paper company or a timber company or something?
Yeah, paper company, timber company. A lot of times it's families, and then they have management companies who manage it for them, so you have to obtain the permission through that management company. Maine has a lot of management companies where families own the land, but other people manage them for them.
Gotcha.
Back on the trail again, Blaine and I drove east for another hour or so until we reached our destination, Hastings Falls.
muddy, but
yeah, a little bumpy, a little muddy.
That was fun though. So Hastings Falls. So tell me about this.
Yeah, so it's an adventurous ride to get here, obviously, and then it's just a short hike. You can hear the waterfall, just maybe 500 feet into the woods. So
all right,
little set of falls.
Let's go look. Hastings Falls. What river is this?
So this is a branch of the Mattawamkeag, and this is, again, we're on private land. You know, the landowner's gracious enough to let us have the trail to get in here to these falls. You know, there's other falls in the area, but they're on land that landowners don't allow ATVs on. So this one's kind of unique in that regard. You know, you can basically ride your ATV in 1 minute walk into the falls. So
yeah, and you can swim at the base of the falls?
Yeah, I've got customers that myself, my kids will come here and the kids will swim at the base of the falls. And
it's pretty deep?
Yeah, it's over my head. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. Fishing, I've got customers that will come over, bring their rod and reel.
And you can just walk down the bank of the river here and fish for what, brook trout?
Yeah, brook trout.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. What a great picnic spot. And it seems like it makes an ideal like half-day trip for somebody, right?
It is. It's my most popular suggested ride. I mean, it's an hour to an hour and a half, depending on your pace to get here each direction, and then spend an hour here having lunch or fishing or swimming, and by the time you make that trip, you're a half a day rental. So,
that's ideal. Yeah, it's nice. You got a beautiful day like today, man. It's a slice of heaven.
Yeah, if only we could pick them.
I know, that's true. Even on an overcast day, that would be beautiful.
Yeah.
The arrival of winter brings a dramatic change of scenery to Penobscot County, especially its northern reaches. And that opens the door to a whole new set of outdoor activities and adventures. In the little town of Grindstone, Penobscot River Trails offers cross-country skiing and snowshoeing along the banks of the Penobscot's East Branch. Created by a philanthropist with a love of the outdoors, PRT opened in 2018 and features roughly 16 miles of groomed trails, many of which flank the river. In summer and fall, the same crushed stone trails serve hikers, runners, and mountain bikers. There's also a convenient put-in spot for paddlers and fishermen to enjoy the river. No matter what the season, the trails are free and open to the public, with rental equipment available for both kids and adults.
So the Penobscot River Trail started with the whole mission behind getting people outside and getting people into new sports, getting them acclimated in a welcoming environment. Penobscot River Trails was founded in initially like the 2017-2018 timeframe. The idea sparked much prior to that. Maine Outdoor Education Program started in 2012, which is kind of what solidified and put all of this into fruition to be moved over here. And we welcome school-age children. And again, we teach them the cross-country skiing, the mountain biking, paddling. So again, the overall idea of this is getting people outside in a welcoming environment, in a large space where we have equipment available and we accept donations, but everything is completely free.
The PRT trails are ideal for beginners who want to learn the basics of cross-country skiing, while more advanced skiers can get a workout on the wider groomed skate ski lanes.
I started skate skiing in '82, so that's, what, 39 years ago? But back then I skate on the snowmobile trail, the only place we could skate. You know, I like the outdoors, I like the cold, I like to enjoy it, and hey, what else? Look, everything is clean. Good place to hide and enjoy. And it's very scenic. You follow the east branch of the Penobscot, you see the Mount Katahdin. The trails are well groomed. It's just, you know, I live local, and some weeks I'm here 4 times.
Visitors to PRT are routinely blown away by its magnificent warming huts, which are worthy of a first-class resort. The wood-heated huts offer a comfy place for skiers to rest and enjoy a cup of cocoa next to a roaring fire while taking in the magnificent view of Mount Katahdin. Another great spot for pursuing winter activities is Twin Pines Cabins in Millinocket. Operated by the New England Outdoor Center, Twin Pines is a former sporting camp on the shores of Millinocket Lake. It features a variety of comfortable housekeeping cabins, as well as the acclaimed River Drivers Restaurant, which serves breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Well, I'm a Mainer, and went to a summer camp in Maine and learned to canoe and kayak. The camp was Camp Winona down in the Bridgeton area, and I canoed and kayaked rivers all over Maine and got to be a competitive kayaker. And so when I was in college, I was racing, and I took a job working for a whitewater rafting company as a way to keep myself in my boat and on the river. We started out as a whitewater rafting company. As rafting demand grew, we were operating on the Penobscot River, but also over in the Kennebec River in the towns of the Forks and the West Forks, which are very small towns, population 20, 30 people, no accommodations, no places for people to eat or stay. And so we started building amenities and have morphed into as much of a broad-based hospitality business now as an outdoor recreation company. We've seen a lot of growth in mountain biking and fat biking in the winter.
New England Outdoor Center offers a host of guided and non-guided activities year-round, from either its Twin Pines location or NEOC's campground just outside Baxter State Park. From late spring through fall, guests can enjoy rafting on the Penobscot's Class 5 rapids, fishing on the local rivers, lakes, and ponds, paddling and boating, and hiking the numerous trails in the area. In winter, Twin Pines maintains groomed cross-country ski and snowshoe trails on its property, as well as fat bike trails, although riders are welcome to simply take off across the frozen lake if conditions allow. Of course, plenty of snowmobilers make Twin Pines their base camp, as it provides ready access to Maine's extensive ITS trail system and grooms over 100 miles of its own trails. If you don't have your own sled, you can rent one at Twin Pines, as well as all the requisite gear to keep you safe and warm on the trail. And if you're looking for an expert to show you around, just ask for Ken Gross.
The green stuff are all the club trails.
Okay.
And the club trails are actually where things get really interesting. Some great views. It's all the places that locals like to go to.
Oh, sweet. Like, yeah, the secret spots.
Yeah, kind of.
Where you'll be taking me.
After getting outfitted, Ken and I headed off on a trail ride that initially took us along the road leading to Baxter State Park's south entrance, which took us past the famous Pock Rock.
And what's so special about this rock besides it having this amazing painting of a bear on it?
Well, it was painted in the 70s to cover up graffiti.
Oh.
It was a couple who were doing it for many years. I guess they got in trouble for painting the rock, though, because even though they were covering graffiti, they were
defacing a glacial erratic, right?
You got it.
From Pock Rock, some riders can enter Baxter State Park and cruise along the ungroomed tote road that runs north, then east through the park. We headed west, however, eventually stopping to take in the magnificent view from the A-Ball Bridge, a place I was more familiar with during warmer seasons.
So this is the west branch of the Penobscot River, and this is superb fly fishing. People come from all over just to come here.
Yeah, it's
fly fishing during the summer.
World class. And what's this part of the river called right here? Is this the A-Ball Deadwater?
The A-Ball Deadwater goes upstream from here. There are two A-Ball falls. They're long names that I can't remember the name of. One of them's just down here, and another one's further down.
And if there wasn't cloud cover, we could see Mount Katahdin right
Absolutely. Yeah, we could see where Thoreau tried to ascend the mountain, but basically this is where he stopped during his travels in the Maine woods.
So he came up the Penobscot, the west branch of the Penobscot. He started in Bangor, and then made his way up here with a Native American guide.
Joseph Addian.
Yeah, and stopped here, and then headed up the mountain.
Correct.
But he didn't make it.
No. He spent the night on the side of the mountain.
Yeah, but he was one of the very first, people of European descent to attempt or to make the climb.
What I think is really cool, this is just me, you see all the birch around us, and that was really what powered all those trips up and down the Penobscot River. The Native Americans made birch bark canoes, and for the time it was cutting edge technology.
Yeah.
Something very light and portable and durable that you could get over rapids and carry beaver pelts to trade.
This is neat though, seeing this in winter like this.
Yeah, and imagine everybody who fly fishes this or does whitewater rafting during summer.
Yep, that's right. It's a busy river, during the summer months. But it's great to see it in this light.
Most snowmobilers in northern Maine know about the ghost trains, a pair of locomotives once used for logging operations and which were abandoned near the shore of Eagle Lake in the Allagash Wilderness Waterway. Back in Mount Chase, Blaine King and I set off from Shin Pond Village on the 65-mile ride to Eagle Lake via ITS 85. The ride is doable in a day, but it's a lot more fun if you spend the night at Libby Camps. A venerable sporting camp with rustic cabins, good food, and a whole lot of atmosphere.
It hasn't changed a whole lot since my great-grandfather started it. We still, the outdoors, hunters, fishers was our basic, our center. And then out of that spun off snowmobilers. That's new because snowmobiling hasn't been around all that long. And anything from skiers in the winter time to canoers in the summer, not just for fishing anymore, hiking, and the seaplanes really opened up the whole countryside for us because we were kind of at the end of the road. Even though we're not that far from Baxter Park and the Allagash, the roads didn't connect. So we were able with seaplanes to take advantage of that. And then everything was going great till like 1959, and my dad died. And he left my mother with a bunch of heavy overhead, no way to make it. But she kept it. She had 4 little kids. I was the youngest, I was 4. The oldest was 12. And no road. Had a plane, but nobody to fly it. So she continued it until we bought her out at the end of 1976. My son bought me out in, I guess, 2013, and we kept some of the outpost camps. We had about 13 outpost cabins. Now we're down to 7 right now. We've kind of figured out which ones could pay for the leases and all that sort of thing, which were the most popular ones. And so we've got those, and he's added on here too. He's added on winter cabins. None of these were winterized originally, so he put a ton of investment into it to make them so we could run year round. Growing up, I didn't think this was special at all. This was home. It was just a place you live. You could live in the most beautiful place in the world, but that's where you live, that's where you live. And that's kind of what I was. I was at that, how good, I can't wait to get out the rest of the world. And I did. I worked all over the Eastern Seaboard through college, and found out that I was hiking home to spend the weekends because I found out that this place really was special. But not knowing that until you get to someplace else. I spend a lot of my time in Alaska now, and I can't wait to get home to here. You know, Alaska's fantastic, but this was unbelievable. And this is home. I mean, and it hasn't changed a whole lot. Still, base logging has kept it private. So the 3.5 million acres is still private ground. You know, nobody lives in here except for us. It's kind of cool.
From Libby camps, the route to the ghost trains takes riders along the length of 13-mile Chamberlain Lake. As you re-enter the woods, you'll encounter the remains of a steam-powered tramway that once shuttled logs from Eagle Lake to Chamberlain Lake, thence to the east branch of the Penobscot via Webster Lake and the man-made Telos Cut. Just about a quarter mile from the tramway are the ghost trains themselves, resting incongruously among the pines that have grown up around them over the decades. These massive machines and their fuel cars arrived in the Allagash in 1926 to reroute the log drives through the west branch of the Penobscot. At Eagle Lake, the train cars were loaded with logs and carried 13 miles to Umbazookskus Lake, where the wood was then driven to Chesuncook Lake and into the west branch, bound for the mills downstream. The trains ran day and night, carrying more than 6,500 cords of wood in an average week, until they were finally abandoned in 1933, after just 6 years of operation. If snowmobiling isn't your cup of tea, there are slower and quieter ways to enjoy Maine's winter landscape. Penobscot County is the gateway to 200,000-acre Baxter State Park, which features Mount Katahdin as its centerpiece and offers unparalleled wilderness snowshoeing and backcountry Nordic skiing. Baxter also allows winter camping at several spots throughout the park, and I aimed to do just that on a snowshoe trek to remote Dacey Pond with friends Mike and Hannah Elliott. I met the Elliots at a winter parking area just off the Golden Road east of Millinocket, where we strapped on snowshoes, loaded a pair of sleds with enough supplies for a few days, and headed down a section of the Appalachian Trail leading into the park. To overnight at Dacey Pond or other camps in Baxter, you first need to make reservations and secure a winter permit through the park website. And if you have a specific date in mind, be sure to make your reservations well in advance. Snowshoeing can be quite strenuous, especially if you have to break trail through fresh snow and haul a sled. So pace yourself and bring plenty of water to stay hydrated. Also, it's important to dress in layers and wear moisture-wicking, breathable garments so you don't overheat or become chilled when you stop to rest. Luckily for us, other snowshoers had already packed down the trail after the last snowfall. Still, hauling the sleds, especially on the uphill sections, proved hard work. About an hour into our hike, we came to the first of 3 ponds we would need to cross. The Elliots had been monitoring the temperatures closely over the past few weeks, so we knew the ice was safe enough. However, it's always a good idea to carry a set of ice picks and some rope in case you happen to fall through a weak spot. If in doubt as to the ice thickness, you can always skirt the edge of the ponds, although it will add time and distance to your route. At around 3 in the afternoon, we arrived at Dacey Pond, home to 10 rustic cabins, each furnished simply with beds and mattresses, a picnic table, and a wood-burning stove. It gives you an idea of what winter life must have been like for Maine frontiersmen of the 1800s. Firewood is stored in a nearby shed, and there are vault toilets. Water can be taken from the pond or the stream that flows past the camp, but it should be boiled or filtered before drinking. Using the cabins as a base, you can make side trips along several trails, including one leading to a set of falls known as Big and Little Niagara. Other than that, there's not a whole lot else to do except relax and enjoy the solitude silence, and spectacular winter landscape. But for many people, including the Elliots, that's more than enough.
So it's just about adventure. You know, the older I get, the more I just want to reconnect with this place, and I want to experience the natural world as much as I can, and those are the best memories.
What amazes me the most when I come out here is just the simplicity of everyday life. And it's to the point now where when I turn onto that road to Baxter State Park and the pavement goes away, it's like I leave everything behind. I'm in the woods. You're really getting connected to what it's like to explore. And we, I think as people, just we have that need to go out there and find adventure. The same people come back every year and have a new experience. They get to interact with the local folks. They get to find something new to do. But at every point when they come back out, they feel renewed. And that's something that you can really only get when you completely disconnect from the hustle and bustle and slow down and just look around and appreciate what we have here.
From bogs and brooks to mountains and meadows, Penobscot County is filled with natural beauty and places of inspiration and wonder, all connected by a mighty river that flows through its heart. Whether you seek the thrill of whitewater or a simple walk through the woods, encounters with wild animals or connections to the past, this spectacular slice of Maine is best experienced by venturing off the beaten path and exploring the land and water through outdoor experiences. In other words, get out there and see it for yourself.
Thank you.